family of a scholar. As soon as she bled, Yael would accompany her mother to the ritual baths before standing under the wedding canopy beside the youngest son of the rabbi, who was destined to follow his father's calling. Ritzpa was another of my friends who had been betrothed from an early age. She was a good-natured girl with a plain face. Everyone knew that her father had given a generous dowry to his daughter's bridegroom, the son of a physician from Krakow. My friends were happy with their future husbands, but I scarcely dared to hope for an agreeable match. Since my father had fallen sick, he had been unable to sit long at his cobbler's bench, and we survived on the charity of our congregation. Although my friends assured me I was good-looking, no man had ever shown the slightest interest in me when I went to the synagogue each day to study. My beauty, it seemed, pleased only my girlfriends. My virtue, on the other hand, was irreproachable. I studied every morning and attended synagogue 3 times a day, sitting upstairs with the other women while the rabbi conducted prayers downstairs with the men. As we approached the matchmaker's lodgings, my heart pounded in my chest. Not with eager anticipation, but with fear. Like my friends, I wished for a husband who was not only well off and a learned scholar, but also young and handsome. Realistically, such an outcome was unlikely for me. A man able to take a mendicant's daughter for a wife must himself be prosperous, yet such a man would hardly choose to marry a pauper. Even a man of means would seek to augment his own fortune. In addition to my faith that my virtue could not go unrewarded, I knew that my mother and father cared about me. They would never agree to a match against my wishes. Yet, despite my trust in my parents and my determination to obey them, I approached Yehudit's door with foreboding. Whatever happened, I vowed to do my best to embrace my fate, confident that Hashem would not choose a path of suffering for me. My mother knocked at the door, which was opened by the matchmaker, an ancient crone with a hunched back and black hair sprouting on her upper lip. Yael had once told me Yehudit had buried 5 husbands. But I was skeptical, since it was well known that the matchmaker had no children. If she was barren, why did her husbands not divorce her? I asked. They could not, Yael replied, lowering her voice confidentially. Yehudit has magic powers. She knows how to enchant a man, so he can never leave his wife. She's going to share her secret with me when I am married. Her expression earnest, she exhorted me not to breathe a word of what she had told me to anyone else. Is her magic forbidden? I asked. Probably. But even if it is allowed, my parents will be furious if they discover I have promised the old woman a gold ring in exchange for her instruction. It was hard to believe 5 men had been willing to marry Yehudit, when it had been difficult for me to find even one. Grinning and rubbing her hands together, the old woman ushered us into a room that smelt of musk and spices. Yehudit lowered herself onto a stool with a faint groan and gestured at a wooden bench. Sit, she wheezed, placing her gnarled hands on her knees. Saul, the chair. My father sat on one of 2 chairs, while I took my place beside my mother on a rickety wooden bench which rocked every time one of us shifted. I kept as still as possible, afraid my mother would complain if I fidgeted. Yehudit studied me in silence for a moment, nodding her ancient head and making a curious sucking sound through her teeth. Without a word, she struggled to her feet and came over to me. Reaching out with her claw-like hands, she pinched my cheeks. Not until I squealed in protest did she desist. I have found a young man for you, she declared as she shuffled back to her stool. I glanced at my mother, who was staring at her feet, twisting her hands in her lap. Although she had never said that she would miss me, I realized this must be painful for her too. Resolving to be cheerful for my mother's sake, I smiled at Yehudit, forcing my eyes not to dwell wistfully on a pitcher of wine that was giving off a rich and piquant aroma. Tell me about my future husband.